Well, as we continue to discuss different topics affecting young people today, we are now joined via Zoom by the CEO of Data Innovators, Ayanda Mtanyana. He developed a dashboard solution on the state of early childhood development readiness in the context of COVID-19 pandemic to inform decisions and support. A very good afternoon to you, Ayanda. Thanks so very much for joining us here on SABC News.
Thanks for having me.
A short while ago, we heard the president talking in Umtata, delivering his Youth Day address, and one of the things he was talking about was the importance of the youth creating, opportunities for themselves. I mean, I'm sure you agree with this in terms of the fact that the youth must really sort of start to take steps, instead of sitting back and saying, oh, there's no opportunities, but also start to see the gaps and what's there and where the opportunities lie. How have you been able to do so?
Thank you very much for that. Essentially, I think one of the things that we realized was that initially there was a lot of talk about addressing the youth unemployment issue, creating access and opportunities for young people, but that wasn't translating to programs. So one of the things that we have done as professionals that come from industry, either management consulting background or having worked in the development space and being part of NGOs and other social change organizations, we saw it fit for us to contribute to the discourse on the nation building effort through putting a spotlight on issues, but not just putting a spotlight for the sake of putting a spotlight and calling out, but really thinking about how we can contribute to solving the problems and really shape the agenda. And that's why we used Data Innovators as a platform that allows us to leverage data and have fact-based conversation around what the real issues are, so that programs are designed to address the real issues that are affecting young people. But at the same time, during the implementation of those programs, that we're able to implement systems that give feedback loops and ensure that actually we are staying on course and we're doing what we said we'd do, and we're actually achieving the intended outcomes. So essentially, as an organization and with my colleagues, we really have created a space for ourselves to contribute to the problem, but leveraging our technical capabilities and leveraging data as a catalyst for change.
And let's talk then about the business. You're CEO of Data Innovators, which is you've developed a dashboard solution on the state of early childhood development. Talk to us about that and what you've actually developed.
All right. So essentially, I think one of the things that were really clear, especially, I guess, during the time of the pandemic, was, starting to open up and get back to things and trying to find a new normal. And unfortunately, in the early childhood development space, unlike in the basic education space, we do not have early childhood development services or early learning programs or ECD centers being provided by the state, and therefore the state knowing very well where they are actually located and being able to reach them and communicate with them and coordinate around the state of readiness, whether they were ready to reopen, and even once everyone is ready to reopen and make judgment calls around reopening and getting children back into the early childhood development centers. And really in collaboration with the state, we figured out a way to really put that information accessible to decision makers so that the department would have visibility into the state of readiness of early childhood development centers, but at the same time would then be able to make calls around reopening the sector and coordinating with the early childhood development practitioners and operators at the time. So this is certainly something that we collaborated with the Department of Social Development, and we're able to work with them to make sure that the data was clean and ready, available for decision making.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that you're having certain very important collaborations, but I want to talk about the issue of accessibility. When you're talking about early childhood development, the first thing I tend to worry about is is this all accessible to those who need it the most? I mean, I'm talking about far-flung areas, impoverished communities. Is there a way for them to be able to access some of this that you offer?
Yeah. So I mean, two things around that. I think one is really, I mean, in terms of the data and how the data was connected so that there's representation and people were seen, we really collaborated with the stakeholders involved and made sure that even people in the remote areas could, be able to provide information, where that information was channeled through, WhatsApp groups, and we really do try and use what is accessible. There are typically organizations that help coordinate and make sure that people in rural communities are represented in the data that gets then used for decision making. But on the other side, which is the second point, is that when it comes to early childhood development centers, and I think for me this is where some of the opportunities around youth employment exist, is that one, we know at the back end of the census that was launched by the Basic Education Minister last month, that about 1.6 million children are actually enrolled at the early childhood development centers that were identified, whereas we also know that there are about 5.7 million children under the age of 5. And really what this says to us is that there needs to be a lot of early childhood development centers provided in our communities, and especially those rural ones that you mentioned. And as well as we do need early childhood development practitioners that are skilled and can provide quality early learning programs to our children. So it's, I think it's evident in the data that we need to be really, helping provide access to ECD services, but also improve quality of the existing early child development services that were identified that are also flagged to be not having been registered, or children are falling behind from development milestones perspective.
Yeah, you mentioned some of your collaborators. Are you also now trying to get more, whether it is government sector or private sector involved in this, and will that assist you further in achieving what you're trying to get to?
Yeah, certainly we work in collaboration, and we work in the space of private and public sector collaboration, because one, we believe in systemic change. We believe in really collaborating with the state and contributing to the national agenda. So the national agenda to actually improve outcomes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
The line is breaking.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Continue. All right. It seems that he's not hearing us at this point. All right. Let's wrap it up. That is the CEO then of Data Innovators, Ayanda Mtanyana, and of course they've developed a dashboard solution on the state of early childhood development readiness in the context of COVID-19. All right. Well.